Hello and welcome to my Season 14 Evelynn guide. This is going to be an absolute banger video. It's going to teach you so much in depth about Eve. You might be asking, who is this guy? I'm a multi-season challenger Evelynn main, so I've got a lot of knowledge to spread and give you guys. So just make sure you watch this whole video. It'll just level you up as a player like so much. So what I'll talk about in this guide, just to summarize it, it's going to be pros and cons of playing Evelynn. We're going to talk about the champion identity, the champion kit, and the combos. I'm going to go really in depth on the kit and the combos. A lot of people just snooze on that. They don't understand how much you can actually do with this champion. There's so many different combos, so many different ways you can make this champion work in different situations. You just need to have a clear understanding of what you can actually do and not just stick to the QE. Oh, that's all I can do. There's so much to it. I'm going to talk about clearing. I'm going to go over how to clear. I'm going to show examples and I'm going to explain why it's so important. I'm going to look at what your options are post clear. I'm going to give you like the main options so it just breaks down the gameplay to be as simple as possible. And I'm going to talk about something no one really talks about, and it's the danger of level 3 ganks and why you need to avoid them, but you don't always have to, but it's a general guideline to go with. When to farm and gank is a very, very common question you guys ask, so we're going to get into that. It's pretty simple. And then we're going to talk about dive theory and how to identify them. So diving is very, very important on this champion because our ult is such a valuable tool when looking for plays. And you can reset aggro, and diving sets up you to win the game because it denies enemies so much. We'll talk about value systems, how to like add structure to your gameplay. It helps a lot. And then we'll also talk about just a basic structure of gameplay just to give you guys a general idea. And we'll talk about even more than that. I just can't fit it all on the page to explain. So let's get into the first part of the guide. Alright guys, let's talk about the pros and cons of playing this champion. Alright, so the first pro is you have insane 1v9 potential. When you're fed, you are just destroying the map. They cannot play, so it's going to feel very good when you're 1v9 and you're the main character. Awesome. Permanently invis, like who doesn't love being permanently invis? The scaling on this champ is very insane. A very unknown or non-talked about thing with Eve is it's very replicable. So once you do start understanding it, it's very easy to consistently replicate your sort of gameplay. And the number one thing is you make the enemy mad. Who doesn't making the enemy pissed off? So that's exactly what you want. It's a very feast or famine champion. So if you're winning, you're going to be 30 kills. If you're losing, you'll be 0-10 and useless. So it's a bit of a gamble, but you can put it into your odds. It's very, very fun, and in solo queue, it's going to be a very OP pick because people don't respect you at all. So it's going to be very good at getting you that LP. Alright, so the cons. When you make mistakes on this champion, you are punished extremely hard. So it's going to be something that teaches you very fast. That can be a con to that, but it's going to tilt you if you don't have the right mindset. So you need to be very careful with mindset so you are approaching the game in the correct way. In very high elo, so most of you guys won't have to worry about this. Like this is like Challenger Plus. It's where you have to be careful with the draft because if you draft in the wrong situation, you're not going to get to play the game. It's the same with other champs. Like you need to pick in the right situation in very, very high elo, but most of the time it won't be in your elo. You can lose in draft, but yeah, 99% of the time it's not going to be the case. Very weak pre-6, but once you do hit 6, it is smooth sailing from there. You can't have too much AP on your team. It's going to make it hard to shine properly. You're very CC prone with her, and the first 50 games or so are going to be rough while you're figuring out the kit, but after that, you're going to start to climb and get very consistent with the champion. And again, it's feast or famine, so you're kind of flipping a little bit whether, but it is determining your skill. If you're good, it's going to be just feasting non-stop. Alright, let's move on to the next section of the guide. Hey guys, welcome to the build section of this guide and the itemization part. So, What do you want to go for the jungle item? You always want to optimize into the blue pet because you want the move speed. It's very, very valuable, and the other two pets really don't offer you much. Like red gives you a slow, but it doesn't really benefit Eve as much as the move speed. Like the tempo and catching up to people is so insane. The pick it grants you, it's like really, really high value. What do we go early game? We go Sork Shoes Dark Seal. That's our first base, like the ideal base we go for when we go Electrocute. When you go First Strike, you want Alternator first base, and that's the difference. First item, we go Lichbane. Lichbane is an awesome item early game. It lets you farm your camps, lets you make plays really, really easily, gives you a lot of damage. Just make sure when you're using Lichbane, you're getting multiple procs of the Spellblade in your combos. You don't have to just do one combo then run away. You can all in, use multiple autos, space your abilities, get multiple procs. Medjai's. Go to Evelynn item. You can't die on this champion if you play correctly. Your perma-invis, people don't know where you are. Your ult is a very good safety net, and you can kill people so easily. You scale so well with the AP, so let's just make sure we're abusing the Medjai's on this champion. Death cap, we all love a good death cap. It gives us so much AP. Eve scales so insanely with AP. It's like our go-to item. We just want it so badly. But like it is expensive, but as soon as you get it, you have so much damage. So like that's like the core items there, but when do we want to go Banshees? Banshees is very, very, very strong in Eve because it allows us to do pretty much anything we want in terms of our combo. Like we don't have to really worry about the enemy Nautilus hooking us while we try to combo that ADC because Banshee's Veil blocks any sort of CC. So it lets us flash into comps, five-man ult people, this sort of thing. Like you can't get CC'd. It just makes picks way, way easier. When do you want to go this? You can go the second item and go a third. You can go pretty much anywhere in your build after your first item. And you want to go out when you think the enemy will stop you from getting your E off. Because like a lot of the time Nautilus will, or whatever CC support, they're going to either kite you or they're going to stun you or whatever. So you're not going to be able to get your E off and do actual damage. Void Staff. You want to go Void Staff when the enemies build magic resist. It's pretty self-explanatory. The magic pen item is good versus magic um, resist items, so keep an eye out for what people are building. That's a good fundamental to have in your arsenal anyway, just see if they have Zonyas or something. Maybe that you need to consider they have Stopwatch, or that doesn't exist anymore, but you know what I mean. Protobelt, or Rockabelt, I should say. So, when do we want to go Rockabelt? Rockabelt is very, very good on Eve when the enemy has the ability to kite you and you won't be able to catch onto them without the little dash. So, you can go Rockabelt pretty much anywhere in your build. You can even replace Lichbane with Rockabelt and got first item if you think that the enemy's all ranged and they're just going to kite you, so you need the dash really madly. And then the last two items that are in this build, Eve's builds are very, very sort of the same every game. It's not too much changing. It's just a couple things you change. We've got Storm Surge and Shadow Flame. These two items are pretty much just pure damage items. But the thing is, Death Cap just gives more damage, so we never want to build these items till after we buy Death Cap. So that's it pretty much for the build path and itemization section of the guide. Let's move on to the runes. Welcome to the runes section of the guide. Alright, so we're going to talk about two main rune pages here. We've got Electrocute and we've got First Strike. So let's talk about Electrocute first. Electrocute, Sudden Impact, Eyeball, Relentless. So what this page is, it gives us a lot of damage and it is guaranteed that we'll always be able to use Electrocute and it scales very nicely with AP. Relentless is very, very nice. It lets you move around the map. And then the sudden impact always procs because you're always invis and you're always dashing with your E. Eyeball, you can stack it up very, very fast in solo queues. So overall, this page is very, very consistent and will offer you the best results most of the time. So, secondary to Electrocute, we have Sorcery Tree, Absolute Focus, Gathering Storm. Very, very nice setup. Also allows you to buy Sork Shoes first base. And then we have Magical Footwear and Cosmic Insight. So we can go either. It is kind of personal preference, but the thing is you have to understand Cosmic Insight lowers our flash and smite cooldown. So it's very important to have the smite cooldown, and a lot of the time if you're versing early game junglers such as Nidalee, Graves, Belveth, who are going to invade you on your second buff. So if you have smite, you have the chance to sort of contest that. But yeah, so if you want to switch out, you can go Cosmic Insight versus early game junglers. So you have the more smites to contest more things, and then you can go the scaling setup versus non-early game junglers. So that's one way to think about the runes, but overall, um, yeah, Electric is going to be your most consistent page. Then we can talk about First Strike now. First Strike is a more fun page, I guess. It's more like scaling, and once you do get to your one item plus spike, it's probably going to do more damage than Electrocute. But the thing is, Electrocute is going to get you through the early game a lot nicer, a lot easier. And the thing with First Strike is if you lose it, you get hit by something, but on accident, you don't have a rune anymore. So something to be careful is, and it's a very high economy page. So you go First Strike, Free Boots, Futures Market, Treasure Hunter, you get a lot of money. And then, so you go Freebirds, Futures Market, Cosmic Insight, just very sort of, yeah, economy, I'm just repeating myself, but you can also go scaling, absolute focus and gathering Scorn with this page. This is kind of saying like, oh, I really just want to farm really hard and just outscale the enemy. Maybe you go this in games where you think not much will happen early game, both teams are full scaling. Maybe you don't think there's going to be a lot of fighting early. Sure, you can go it in that sort of scenario, but yeah, that's it for the runes section. Let's move on to the next section, which is skill order. Welcome to the skill order part of this guide. Alright, so this is pretty simple, but so the way you want to think about it is you want to go Q into E into Q if the enemy's not going to invade you at level 3. If they're going to invade you level 3, you need to put a point in W at level 3. So you have the W. One, they'll take a camp probably, because you can't really contest it too well. So if they do take a camp, you're going to be stuck level 3. So having that W for any sort of skirmishes that do happen while you're stuck level 3 is going to be very important. As well as the other sort of setup you can go is you will do the same as before, but after you max your Q, you put 3 points in W. Why do we do this? We're versing champions like Echo, things that are going to have a panic ability. So you won't be able to just charm them QE, QQQ, ult without them panicking. So you need to have the points in your W, so your charm duration is long enough for Echo to not be able to like respond. There's a few other champions, but Echo's the sort of main one I think about. Alright, let's move on to the next part of the guide. Alright guys, let's talk about the importance of optimizing our jungle clear. Alright, so just to summarize the importance is, every single game it can literally save you 30 seconds. If you're clearing wrong and incorrectly and not to your champion's fullest potential, you're not going to be maximizing your gold and XP, and you're not going to have the amount of options that you should have. So I'm going to show you guys now an example for each clear, and I'll talk about how to clear and go over some clearing fundamentals. Alright, let's go on to the next section. Alright guys, let's look at an example of the blue start full clear. So, notice how I queue it straight away. We're just going to kite it towards the next camp. There's not too much to this. Just make sure you're autoing off your cooldown and you're queuing off cooldown. So both your abilities have cooldowns. Your auto is considered an ability and has a cooldown. So make sure you're not wasting any time that it's on cooldown. You're using it straight away. And when blue buff is low, you want to make sure you Q the Gromp there, because the target you Q gets a lot of bonus damage on it. See how it's got 3 orbs on it? A lot of people don't understand this, but yeah, so the target you hit your first initial Q on gets 3 orbs on it that deal bonus damage. So you want to make sure you're not wasting that. So we use our next E here to run to the next wolf. It could be done a little bit better, but this is just a very basic, this is like a go-to sort of clear. It could be maybe a few seconds faster, but it's probably going to be better than most. So pay attention to everything I do. See how I'm kiting the camps very comfortably? You need to get to the point where you're very comfortable in this. So what I really, really want you guys to start doing is figure out how you can clear better. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to go into practice tool, watch this video, you're going to watch it back several times, maybe even practice it for a few days. Maybe it'll take you a few weeks to get down. And then at that point, you're going to have a very, very nice clear, which is going to put you ahead of everyone every single game. So Here we are finishing this clear very, very swiftly. Just pay attention to every Q I've used and how, like, think about when you should be using each Q on what camp. So we finished the clear at what, 3:06. Very nice. Alright, let's move to the red start. Alright guys, let's talk about the red start full clear with Evelynn. Alright, so we're going to be starting with a Q straight away. We're going to kite it towards the Krugs, and the main hard part is the last Q on red here. You're going to notice around 500 HP, you need to start walking to the Krugs, and you're going to use your Q. See here, it's 200 health, and that's when I pull it. And then I use my next Q on the Krugs to pull the Krugs, and then use my first Q on the Krug, the big one, which is very important. And then we're making sure to use all of our Qs on the Krug. So we're going to drag it to close to the Raptor campers while we're doing this as well. So here we are, and then we use our E and Q, and now we're going to the Raptors. So just pay attention to this. You need to get this clear down. It is very, very important. It's very, very valuable. It maximizes your golden XP. You're going to finish your clear faster than everyone else. The enemy jungler in your elo is probably going to be full clearing 20 seconds, 30 seconds slower than you. So it's just going to give you that huge upper hand just through PvE. Like, you're not even doing anything special, you're just maximizing your damage output on camps. And it's very important to understanding how your champion does damage too. So it doesn't just teach you how to farm your camps, it teaches you more than that. So it's just very, very important to understand how important clearing your camps is optimally and being as fast as possible. So here, we're doing a red start solo and we're finishing at what, like 3:15-ish, around that. So yeah, it's very, very fast. I think it could be a few seconds faster, but you get the point. This is what you really need to get close to, and don't slack on this, guys. It's very important. If you actually want to improve, if you actually want to climb, this is what you have to do. 3:13 solo. Very, very nice. Alright, guys, let's move on to the next section. Alright, guys, now I want to talk about what your options are post full clear, and also about the danger of level 3 ganking is. But so your main options are, you do have more options in this, but the main options, like the most replicable options, is you have a gank or a dive opportunity. You can tempo base, you can take Scuttle Crab, or you can do your Raptors and Krugs in the instance you did the Raptors start. And then I will show you an example after this of each option, but I just want to touch on quickly the danger of level 3 ganking. So I know on paper, a level 3 gank, oh, I got a free kill, but you do have to understand, as Eve's champion identity, you're very, very weak pre-6. What doing a level 3 gank does, it makes the game very, very volatile. So there's going to be a lot more fights because of that, because the enemy might feel pressure to do some silly trades because they're emotional. So things like this, you don't want to do level 3 ganks in the case that's going to make the game volatile, which isn't going to benefit you. Maybe if the enemy is all scaling and your team's all early game, you do want to do it just to make the game very volatile. And then you also need to understand it's going to de-sequence your camps, making it very, very hard to be efficient. And what I mean is by that is you're going to have half your camps respawning and then half your camps are up. So you're not going to be able to, like, have efficient golden XP income. And just remember, it can work, but you need to be very, very careful with when you do it. Alright, now let's move on to an example of a gank, a tempo base, a scuttle crab, and a Raptors Krugs reclear into a recall or whatever. Alright, peace. Alright guys, let's have a look at an example of a gank. So, first things first, I am level 3 here, but I had to skip my red buff to make this gank happen fast. So Alawi is very, very overextended, and we only have this quick opportunity to look for this play. My clear, if it was optimal this game, it would have led to being able to full clear into this gank, but yeah, we look for the gank because she's way too far overextended, and she's a melee champ, and she has no way to sort of leave, so that's why this gank was very sort of easy to execute. So you want to think about enemy jungler where they are. So I know the enemy jungler couldn't be here because she showed previously, and the enemy champion is very, very easy to kill, and they're overextended. So this is all sort of things you want to think about. You just want to make sure it can't get counter ganked, and it's going to be a free kill. Alright, let's move on to the next example. Alright guys, let's talk about tempo basing. Tempo basing is something that's extremely underrated, especially in lower elos. But I hear, for example, a lot of you guys would go for the Scuttle Crab here because you think it's free because enemy base. But instead, since both laners just came off of base, and this is a lot of the case, like sometimes the top matchup's very important to play around, but you can't path there because you're going to get invaded. So this game is very volatile top matchup, so I do want to play around it, but I can't exactly play around it by pathing top because I could get invaded or something, but nothing happened bot there. I don't want to spend my time being bot in that situation because even if I get Scuttle, nothing's going to come after it, so it's not that worth just to get the Scuttle Crab, especially in this season. It doesn't give that much value, so that's why we opt into just basing for tempo there. Yeah, I hope you guys understand and learn from this example and apply into your own games. Alright, let's move on to the next example. Alright guys, let's look at this example. So I just did my full clear and I started Raptors this game. So what this means is I have time to kill before Raptors comes up, so you can look for a gank. You can also look for Scuttle here. So what ends up happening is there's a mid wave here and I end up collecting this mid wave. And it's just killing time. So you can look for opportunities as well. But then now we collect mid wave. Well, on the screen it also gives you a bunch of extra information that's in the video. But it shows now it's time to do my Raptors and then I do Krugs and I'm going to have a very big base. So when you do this is when you start Raptors. So you want to start Raptors when you think you can play for the respawn and the game's going to be slow. And this will set you up for a very, very nice early game and a very nice first base. Alright guys, let's move on to the next example. Alright guys, let's look at an example where I choose to contest Scuttle Crabs. Alright, so first thing to know is Kindred level 3 gank to bot, and I know I can get double Scuttle if I quickly get this Scuttle here. So I know she's going to be late to it, so I'm able to sneak it, and this is going to end up being a very nice early sequence for us. So I know since she's going for that gank, it delays her speed on how fast she can take it, so I deny this. And then what happens after this is Kindred wants to greed for this. It's her mark, and she thinks I'm topside because I cleared up, so this is very good. And now I get to cross mid and play for the top Scuttle, so this is one time where you can go for Scuttle because you can double Scuttle, so it's going to put you in a very nice spot ahead of the enemy jungler. Alright, let's move on to the next section of the guide. Alright guys, let's quickly talk about Eve combos. So this is going to be very important, very quick, but it's very important to understand all these combos. So the first combo that you need to know is QW. It procs your W when you throw a mid-air. Say they're long range, you need to catch up to them somehow. You can also do this with the other variant of your Q, so you get max range and you QW and it'll proc the W. Alright, so the next combo is going to be your go-to combo with Proto-Build. It's going to be very important to understand. It's basically the same thing without Proto-Build, but it's important to understand with Proto-Build. So you want to Q Proto-Build, QQER. It's very easy, but very important to understand. Another thing you need to understand about Proto-Build is you can auto Proto-Build alter. It's an auto reset. A very important combo is E flash. You can buff your E before you press flash to make it go off instantly. What this does is, say if they flash your E, like they flash here and you come for a gank, your E will follow them because they'll react to your flash and then they'll flash. But since you buffered your E, it'll go on that target. Another thing you can do is you can E and flash into someone just like that and you will deal damage to everyone inside. Cool little tip, it does a lot of damage later as well. What else you can do is, say if there's someone here and you want to combo them, you can QE and then Proto-Belt into the wall to cancel the dash animation. And say you want to kite someone, they walk into you, you can QE and then Proto-Belt away and then sort of QQQ around that. So the last combo is to Q Proto-Belt smite someone and that'll proc electrocute instantly. I can't really show you just now because I don't have smite, but you get the point. And that's pretty much everything for combos. There's more combos, but that's all the main important stuff. Alright, let's move on to the next section of the guide. Alright guys, this is one of the most important concepts to understand when playing Evelynn. You need to understand the importance of dives. Diving is the most impactful way to kill someone or like gank them because one, it denies a lot of minions, lets you get plates, lets your teammates deny minions. You get a lot of gold from the kill, get a lot from the plates, and deny the enemy. So, It's very important to know how to identify that when a freeze is going to be, a dive is going to be able to be pulled off. So you need to pay attention to cannon waves because the reason cannon waves is very important to pay attention to. One, cannon wave is very valuable because it has a cannon that's worth like 100 gold roughly, and it also denies a lot more than a normal wave, and also a cannon wave you can't just one shot. Usually a normal wave, if you have any sort of wave clear, you can just one shot the wave and you don't lose anything when you die. So it's not the same as stacking a cannon wave. You can't one shot a cannon wave because the range minions are even further behind, as well as the cannon minions very, very tanky. So this is why you want to understand when to dive. You need to pay attention to slow pushing waves and question every time you see it. Can I dive? Is my ults up? And you need to understand you need to be diving as much as you can, especially when you're ahead. So make sure you're taking full advantage of your ult. You can drop aggro after taking aggro. So you need to very, very high prioritize dives. So I'm going to show you an example of a dive and go over that now. Alright, let's see it now. Alright guys, let's look at this example of a dive. Alright, so notice that there is a wave here. It's not a cannon wave, but it's just a very basic dive. I have my ult up. I'm able to just set up this dive. I can tank. I can just drop aggro straight away. And it's very, very easy concept to understand. You want to tank and you want to be able to play off your ults. So just imagine that's a big wave. It's a very, very simple concept to understand, but very, very important. And it'll give you a lot of LP once you understand how to dive, when to dive, and the importance of identifying them early. So I hope this is a good example. If you have any questions, let me know. But yeah, in my other videos, there's lots of times where I'm diving, so that's where you're going to get the most examples out of things. All right, let's move on to the next section of the guide. Okay, let's talk about value systems. This is a very sort of untouched on subject with a lot of sort of coaching and improvement sort of jungle theory sort of things. So a value system is how we value objectives, kills and farming. So we need to create our own value system to help add structure to our gameplay. This is very important, especially on Eve. You need to understand what you value and what's going to give you the most gold, the most XP, and deny the most gold and XP from the enemy. So, for example, when my ult is up, I want to ideally dive people over just getting kills that don't deny minions. So this gives us gold and XP as well as denies enemy XP. Another example is I would rather dive someone over taking Rift Herald. It's just going to deny the enemy. It's not just giving me a me just a gain. You want to deny the enemy as well as gain at the same time. We also need a value playing around our win conditions. So, say my Samira is 20 kills and I'm maybe like 10 kills, and my top's like 10 deaths. I really need to play around my Samira to win that game. So, valuing playing around the right members is also very important. So, that's it for value systems. Let me know if you have any questions about value systems in the comment below. Alright guys, this is a very, very important concept to understand. Where do we path? Do we path top? Do we path bot? So, let's start by questioning your lane matchups. Are they range? Are they melee? Who has the advantage? Whoever has the bigger range generally gets priority, which means they will push and most likely have first move to your jungle to help you protect you from invades by the enemy jungler, which is what the enemy jungler will look to do because you're playing Eve, you're very weak. So you want to path the lanes that have priority to make sure you're best protected, as well as you want to play to the lane if you have no priority to your strongest lane. So you think you should impact or slash. You can maybe gank or who you think will be able to you can fight around. So that's how you sort of generally ask whether you should path top or bot. And now I'm going to show you a few games where I decided to path top or bot and explain my thought process within. Alright guys, I've just got my OPGG up on my main account with Challenger MMR. It's currently Challenger right now. It's on the screen, you can see right there. Alright, let's have a look at a few games where I completely smurfed. And I'm going to talk about where I pathed in each game and why and my thought process. Alright, so for this first game, I have Fiora and Riven against each other. They both have double ignite, and they're going to be a very, very volatile lane because they're both melee. They're both fighting early champs. So I want to part top this game, but there is an issue. Um, the enemy is a Jarvan. He likes to invade, so he's probably going to invade top. But the thing is, enemy bot lane is very heavy scaling, but they're also double ranged against my melee support. So I need to consider that because I'm not going to have priority because Shaco's going to get pushed in, but Shaco does love volatile game states. I also have a Lucian mid against an Ahri mid, so that will lead me to having mid priority. So if J4 does invade me, I just need to be aware of it and play it smart, and I will be completely fine because I'll be able to have my laners come to me, help me, and defend the invade. So that's why I'm part top this game. Let's look at the next game. Alright, so in this game, I have Urgot against Camille. So my Urgot is a range champ. And then I have Jhin against Draven, Nautilus against Alistar. So this game I would part top because my top laner has priority and my ADC is very outclassed in terms of champion early game. Draven is very, very strong early, so I need to play around my top. So that's why I part top this game, and I need to be careful of the Rek'Sai invade. So Urgot will probably have the best priority to help defend that sort of invade. Let's look at the next game. Alright, so in this game, I have Jax against Yorick, which is a very good Jax matchup, so he's going to have priority early. Jax is very strong early. Yorick's a scaling split push champion that needs to play around his ultimate and sort of scale with that. He also needs ghouls, and he can't get his ghouls early, so Jax will have priority early. And even if he has ghouls, Jax has his E, which blocks Yorick's entire kit, so Jax is going to have priority early game. And then the next thing I look at is I have Kalista Maokai versus Ezreal Nami, so Nami, Ezreal should be able to pressure level 1 because Maokai's useless level 1 against that, so there's not going to be any priority for me bot, so I want to path towards my top this game for the safest early game. So that's this game. Let's look at the next game. Alright, so this is a bit of a hard game. I'm versing an early game invade champion, and I have a TF against Aatrox. Aatrox being on my team, a melee champion. Enemy TF has a range champion, so he's going to have top prior. Mid is, I have an 80 range champion versus AP range champion, so my mid should get priority. And then my bot is a Twitch Maokai against a Seraphine Senna, so it's 2 range versus 1 range, 1 melee, so I pretty much have no priority this game besides mid, so what I want to do this game is probably play towards my strongest lane, which is going to be my bot lane, just because the enemy's sort of scaling champion, Senna Seraphine, so pathing bot's going to be the best for that, and then top's kind of hard to play around because he has comedy, he's kind of just trying to poke and sustain in lane, so playing for bot and then avoiding any invades is going to be my best bet for this game. And one last game just to really understand where to path. Alright, so we have Cassante versus Lee Sin, Eve versus Lilia, Yone versus Karma, Kalista Renata, Lucian Xerath. So my bot lane is very short range but very aggressive early. My top lane is both melee champions, but my Lee Sin has more wave clear. And then mid matchup, Karma has way more wave clear and way more range than Yone, so he's going to get priority. So what will happen this game is Lee Sin will have priority, my bot won't have priority, enemy bot is way more wave clear, so since the enemy is a Lilia, she doesn't have the invade option on us, so we can path both ways this game depending on the enemy jungler. So if I want to play for bot, I can do that because my bot lane needs a lead in that lane. But if I'm scared of the enemy jungler, say it's a Graves or Bel'Veth, I'll probably path top this game for the best early game to be safe and get my full clear off. Alright, let's move on to the next section of the guide. Alright guys, let's talk about having a basic structure of gameplay. So, this is just to give you a simple outline of how to play Eve if you have no sort of idea in your head. So, you sort of want to efficiently find a path to 6 because your 6 is your really strong point, and before then it's very hard, and then after that it's sort of smooth sailing. So once you're 6, you want to use your ult on cooldown, and then use your ult before farming your camps, because that way you can farm your camps after your R to be very efficient. While your ult's on cooldown, you're using that time to make money and XP in the most safest way. And then after lane phase, you want to play around your strong members, find picks before objectives, and just play in the side lane. But that's a really sort of general idea of how to play. You can definitely branch out. This is just a basic sort of idea. If you have any questions, let me know. Alright guys, let's touch on mid to late game theory and team fighting. So with mid to late game, it's a bit hard to explain just in this short little guide, but I'll give you the general rundown just so you guys have the right sort of mindset and what I think about. So what you want to do is you want to analyze both teams and think about each's win con. Maybe the enemy has a fed top laner and you have a fed ADC. So maybe if your top lane is strong enough to contest the enemy and you can shut down their win con because the enemy doesn't play for it, then you can do things like that. Or you can just play to peel your ADC or anything like that. So that's sort of what you want to think about. You want to stop their win con as well as play around your own team's win con. With plays that you go for, you want to consider numbers, whether you have numbers advantage or disadvantage. You don't want to go for anything unless you have the advantage, because it's going to be very hard to win. And you want to make sure you're always playing around your ult, because it's the same thing. Like your whole champion is playing around your ult and using it to its maximum potential. So play to make picks on your strongest side and get push so you can move with that side laner and look to collapse on mid lane because that generates a numbers advantage for you. And just to touch on team fighting, your two main options are the flanks. So you want to look for creative angles and look to get on the back line and do as much damage as possible. And your other option is to protect your backline. So you're playing more peel. Doesn't mean you're playing not to kill people, it just means you're playing in a different position to protect your fed ADC or whatever. And you can peel with your W, front to back, kill the tank really quickly. You do have the damage to do that most of the time if you're fed. And just make sure you're ulting as many people as possible for max damage. Alright, let's move on to the next section. Alright, let's talk about when to pick Eve. So she's at her strongest when she's solo AP and she has strong early laners to get her to her level 6 safely and start her extreme snowball. So consider dodging when you have 3 plus AP because it's going to make the game very, very hard. But if you want to, you can just also just be very rigid and just ODP it. So you just pick it no matter what, and that way you're going to learn how to get creative and you're just going to have the right mindset and you're going to pick it. You don't care about winning, you just want to make the best decisions possible, which will net you the most LP in the long run. But if you want to just pick it in a different bit of a champion pool and you're not OTP, you want to pick it when you need AP in your team. It's going to be very, very powerful and unleash the full potential in that situation. Alright, let's move on to the next section. Alright guys, everyone loves a good matchup tier list, so let's talk about this real quick. So, in the ban section, these are champions you can consider banning. Maybe in your elo you think someone's really bad at Nidalee, or maybe they're really bad at Rengar, so you don't really care about the matchup too much, but these are the champions I'd consider dodging, or not dodging, but banning. You still want to play versus them, but yeah, so maybe in low elo, Graves and Kindred isn't much of a threat, especially in Italy. So maybe you ban Rengar or Beowulf because they're probably a bit easier to execute. I don't know, depending on the elo. And then other than that, you got the hard. You got Elise, Kane. Like these champions can survive your combo as well, or like they have tools to defend against you, and they can also invade you early. So it makes it hard to deal with them. Medium level matchups, these are champions that can't really punish you early unless they have a bit of setup to help them out. But yeah, I don't really mind versing anyone in medium or easy. So yeah, this is just a quick matchup tier list. Just have a look, and then let's move on to the next section. Alright guys, you made it to the end of the guide and I just want to talk to you about my Patreon really quickly. So if you learn from the guide and you want to continue learning and improving, consider joining my Patreon. You can ask me all sorts of questions there. I offer daily coaching. You can literally get coached by me for every single day for such a cheap monthly subscription. Like the value is insane. You have access to the private coaching Discord. It's all about jungle improvement, and you'll also have access to my coaching VODs. So it's just going to be putting yourself in the right place to improve, right place to get better, and you'll be able to access everything you need to improve as a player. So consider joining if you want coaching from me, and I'll see you there.